5:30, yep, 5:30. We'll open the first public hearing, but before we do that, Commissioner Patrick, would you lead us in the prayer, please?
Let's pray. Lord Heavenly Father, we just thank you again for allowing us to be here today, for the blessings of life, for the help, Lord. Thank you for all the people that are out there in the audience, Lord, that have concerned citizens for our county. You bless this county abundantly, Lord, and we just want to thank you again for all that you've given us, Lord. Help us to be good stewards. Help us as commissioners to have wisdom, Lord, and do your will, your perfect will. We ask these things in Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, under new business, we're number 2. We'll be opening up the first public hearing, or the second public hearing actually, for the excise tax, the rooms, lodging, accommodations. We would like to open the floor for citizens' comments. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to comment on this, please come up to the podium, state your name, and we'll go over it.
Not everybody at once.
Hands out. Okay. Everybody good with this? Nobody got anything? Gentlemen, y'all got anything before we close?
So we had a good meeting on it last time. I was expecting a few more comments. Ms. Jackson, do you have anything as far as?
No, sir, I'm good.
Ms. Jackson's like less is more, right?
That's right.
Mr. Searcy, anything?
No, sir. Everything's good.
Give him a couple minutes or-
Well, somebody comes in and wants to say something.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, I make a motion that we close the second public hearing for the lodging tax, the lodging ordinance. I'll make a motion.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's closed. Next item up will be the alarm ordinance. And once again, we'll open that to the citizens for any comments. Once again, if you have anything on that, if you would, please come up, state your name, and we'll go from there.
Gentlemen, my name is Wendell Bates. I think most of you know me. I'm in the security business here in the county. I've been here for 22 years doing security. Most of this ordinance, the new one is basically the same as the old one, with some teeth in it, which I like. I think it's time that y'all crack down on the false alarms.
Can't hear it.
Can you speak closer to the mic?
How about that?
I don't think it's on.
Yes, on.
It is on. It is on.
Just probably turned up.
Put it around the side and see what we can do right there. We'll pop it out with it.
How's that? Better?
Better.
Can you hear me?
Hear you better without.
Well, I am pretty loud.
Which one of these is it?
The wireless one on top.
Maybe the battery's dead.
Good enough shot there.
There you go. I think that's working a little better.
Reset it.
Okay, my name's Wendell Bates. I'm in the security industry here in Fannin County, and I want to say that I like the new ordinance. As far as, I think y'all should have put these fines, raised these fines a long time ago. I know the sheriff would like to do away with this altogether. Bless his heart, I understand his problem, and the fire chief's the same way. But, we've got several issues here. We've got one is since this ordinance was first drafted, and I think we all need to sit down and bring all the companies affected, the actual installing companies in here to talk about this. But there's been a huge increase in do-it-yourself alarms. And they're all being installed by the homeowners or handymen. There was a reason why the original application form had a place on the bottom of it for our license number, so that y'all could verify that they were being installed by a licensed installer. I'll be willing to bet that half the alarms in this county now are not installed by a licensed installer. And I would be willing to bet a lot of the problem that y'all are suffering from. The other part is the leasing, B&B, whatever, people leasing their homes. And they're not working, the rental companies, and or if they're doing it themselves, they're not working with the renters to make sure these alarms are turned off before they get there and turned back on after they leave. So they walk in, set it off, they have no clue how to control it. A lot of them don't even know how to use one. And so that needs to be addressed as well with the rental companies. I know there is some effort by all of them to work on this, but I know it still happens. I've got a few customers who have rental houses, and it does happen from time to time, but for the most part, most of my customers have worked it out to where they control the alarm systems themselves from their phone, from their home, and they know when the house or the building's ready, and they can turn them off before they get there. But as you well know, the rental business has exploded as well. And not all the rental companies are working that closely with the homeowners. So I think there's some more work needs to be done on this. Now, when we start talking about video verification, cameras are a situation where, okay, we got cameras on the outside. First of all, putting them in. That means every alarmed home or business has to have cameras. That's a substantial cost to the owner. The cheapest system you can buy off the internet is $600 or $800, and that's not for a very good quality system. Ones that we install generally start at $1,000, go up to over $2,000 or $3,000. So that's a lot to ask a homeowner to have to do just so that you can get a response to an alarm. The alarm systems are all put together with zones, multiple zones. I'm going to bounce back and forth between cameras and alarm systems here. Alarm systems have multiple zones. They got to have at least 2 zones to work. Most of them have dozens. Why couldn't we also require multiple zone verification, like at least 2 zones, if just one? Because a lot of these false alarms are also just doors shaking in the wind. They don't fit properly. The switches are not installed properly. So you set off an alarm with a door. Well, if none of the motion detectors go off, then there's no point in anybody going out there to look. Whenever one of mine goes off, I always ask them, did another zone go off? No, just that one switch or that one motion. Don't worry about it. I think it would be multiple zone verification. Now back to cameras. A lot of times by the time the alarm goes off, they're already inside the building, so any cameras outside are not going to necessarily show you anything. And we're not allowed to put cameras in any place that has a reasonable expectation of privacy. So about the only place we can put one is maybe in the living room. And if they're not in the living room, if they broke in through the bedroom window, and they don't come in the living room, you're still not going to get a video verification. Now homeowners can put cameras anywhere they want to, but we're not allowed to. We cannot put a camera anywhere there's a reasonable expectation of privacy. So that leaves all the bedroom spaces off limits. Any bathrooms, of course. There's a lot of spaces that are questionable. So it gets questionable for us if we start talking about putting cameras inside a building, in a residence. Commercially, it's another story, but all these factors need to come into play when you start talking about video verification, the cost to the homeowner or the business owner, and where you can actually put cameras to get a good verification. If they break in through the bedroom window and go back out through the bedroom window, and mean, you gotta have cameras all the way around this house, and some of these houses are multiple levels. You can talk about 6, 8, 10 cameras just on the outside to make sure you cover every possible way they can get into the house just to verify that they're there. So I think we can, if we did a multiple zone verification, where 2 zones had to be triggered before you would be called, I think would eliminate a lot of these false alarms as well. But these are things I think we all ought to sit down and talk about before we get carried away and do away with this and require video verification only. Because I don't think that's going to work very well either. Plus, it's going to hurt the owners in cost. I mean, they're going to have a substantial increase. So that most of them are going to probably just do away with their monitoring, which is also going to hurt our fees, our income. So there's a lot of ins and outs to this thing that I think we need to consider before we finalize this thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question for Mr. Bates. You know,
Sure. Yes, sir.
Mr. Bates, when you put in one, is there any what am I trying to say, guarantees or things, you know, in the contract that you promised the owner?
You mean as far as warranties?
Yes,
or?
warranties. That's the term. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All the equipment is usually warranted for a year. On my installations, I warranty them against any, let's see, what's the word? Defects in workmanship on my part.
Okay.
I warranty all my work for 1 year against defects in workmanship. For most of your equipment, the parts of the system are warranted for at least a year in almost security systems. Electronics are.
Do you have a lot of trouble? I mean, I'm sure you've been in this business, I know, quite a while. So, do you have any problems with customers?
Most of the alarms that are generated on my systems are generated by the homeowners. Occasionally we have an equipment malfunction, especially on a system that's older.
Mm-hmm.
You can, over a number of years, especially like smoke detectors. Hardwired smoke detectors are supposed to be changed, replaced every 10 years, period. I guarantee you, there's probably homes that have got them in there 20, 30 years old, never been changed. They're supposed to be cleaned every couple of years with compressed air or something to blow the dust out of them. We've got a lot of insects that roam around inside our homes, especially these little beetles that we can't get rid of.
Right.
Ladybugs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've even had my motion detectors at the house tripped here recently by ladybugs crawling across the lens of them because the motion detectors looking for something 10 or 12 feet out there, your size. If a bug crawls across the lens of your glass, guess what? He looks as big as you do. So, you know, there's a lot of things that can cause a false alarm, but there are some that are caused by the homeowner, especially in the rental part of it. We get into this with renters who don't know what they're doing, or people who are going in commercial buildings who don't. In other words, there should be what they call key holders going in every building on a commercial project. There shouldn't be anybody going in and out that does not have the cancellation codes and keys to the building. And unfortunately, there are a lot of buildings and owners that allow people to come and go as they please, employees and whatnot, that don't know this information. So when an alarm is tripped, they can't cancel it.
Right.
I train all my customers. I have a few, but very few, and almost all of them cancel the alarms before the sheriff's department is dispatched or before they even get out there. I don't think, but in 1 or 2 occasions in the last year has there not been anybody, in other words, they were not in phone range or something happened and they couldn't get the message, that their monitoring service could not get in touch with them to let them know. And I know one case where the lady's cleaning woman went in, and she tripped it, and they couldn't get a hold of her, and of course she would have canceled it. She knew the cleaning lady was there. They couldn't reach her. So I mean, that kind of thing does happen on occasion.
Right.
But there are people that have been known to trip them, and they're late for work. They just go jump in the car and go to work and leave it. I mean, that does happen too. So I'm glad to see these fines going up, because when they start getting $500 fines, they will do something about it.
Ms. Jackson, if I could just ask you, our contract with them, with the renter, okay, do we require the cabin person, the owner of the cabin, to give them that number, the code, to get in, or do they not?
No, that's something that the management companies would have to take care of.
Okay.
You know, like when.
Could we not
like
require
Wendell
that?
was- Well, when Wendell was talking about, we do require people to register, and there is a space on the registration form to mark that they're a rental cabin. So
But
when
no
we get
code?
that, then we check, no, we don't get codes.
We can't require that?
I don't think we want to
Well,
require that.
no, you don't want codes being given out like that, Mr. Patterson. What you do is you require the management companies to do a better job of making sure those alarms are turned off before the renters show up.
Okay.
That's the
Okay.
rub, they're gonna be the rub there.
I see.
They need to be, management companies, if they're gonna manage it, they need to manage it.
Right.
And they need to be the ones responsible for the alarm. And at that point, they need to be responsible for it, make sure it's turned off, or that the monitoring service is getting in touch with them instead of the homeowner
Right.
to cancel this alarm if it's a false alarm. The management company should know if there's supposed to be somebody there or not.
Right.
So it kind of shifts from the owner to the management company. But if you start putting the pressure on the owners and the management company's not doing their job, then they're gonna find a new management company that will.
Right. If you had to say one thing that we could do to make this thing work better, what would you say it would be?
Well, actually, two
As far as
things.
us?
Two things. One is these increased fines.
Right.
The other is two zone verification.
Choose on verification?
I think that would, I think half the false alarms are rattling windows and doors in the wind. I know it happens on some of my customers. And I've tried and tried and tried to get them to fix those doors and windows. I cannot hog time and make them do it. I mean, I can only go so far, but believe me, I have been after them. Fortunately, they are good about canceling the alarms. They know it's a problem too, and they are also good at it. They do a good job of canceling it. I have to say I'm pretty proud of all my customers. The majority of them, I doubt if we've had probably a dozen false alarms in the last year, so they're pretty good about it. But I try to put the system in properly and maintain it properly for them.
You mentioned at the beginning when you started talking that you said there's a huge increase of do-it-yourself alarms.
Yes, sir.
You want to speculate and say how many you think that we have in our cabins? I know you.
I venture to say 30 to 50% of them now.
And we can't do a lot about that, right?
Well, if you tell them that they've got to have it certified by a licensed installer before you'll respond to it or allow it. I mean, if they want to put it in, they still want to have a licensed installer come out there and make sure they did it right. That might help.
You think we could do that, Mr. Doss, or is that illegal to have that, do we have that much authority?
We probably do, but I don't know that it's something that it's worthwhile to police. And then again, it's my house. So if I want to pay to have,
Right.
Mr. Bates do it, or maybe I don't want one at all.
A lot of the owners may go the cheap route, and like say.
A lot of them do it yourself, Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He said 30 to 50%. And if the cheap route's not the good route, it's gonna cost us money as well. So-
Well, the fine is
The fines
actually,
will hopefully
the
take
fine
care
is
of
what's
that.
doing it. I think that when you start trying to tell people, you're gonna do this on your property, I don't think that that's proper, actually. I mean, if we've got a stiff fine, if they feel like they need to go that route and have a certified person to sign it, that should be their choice.
I was just trying to remember.
'Cause we can still
I was
find-
thinking that Sheriff Kirby, and he's not here yet, but last time we had this meeting last week, said that wasn't gonna be working out too well, the fines.
Well, we don't know until we try it, I think. I mean, that's the same thing with fire calls. We get those too in the city, but it's just, and like the gentleman said, I mean, the wind can blow and
Right.
shake a door and the alarm's gonna go off, or a bug or a rat or whatever may run across the floor.
Mice can set them off
Yeah,
too.
they have, but
I think the
That's-
part of the issue with that is it's not repeat alarms at the same place, there's just so many
Right.
cabins and stuff within the county that you end up with 800 false alarms, and
Well,
many
yeah,
of them are
that's right.
first-time things. And
I
you
think
run
Sheriff Kirby said
800.
100%.
Yeah.
Whereas, I mean, a lot of people have went to these ring cameras and such, which they've got on the, and they will call in and say, to the 911 center, I've got someone on camera at my residence.
And most of those people aren't registering.
Yeah.
They're not registering.
No, sir, because
Because
they
it's a
can do it
ring,
themselves.
it's a ring system, so it's not gonna trigger. It
Yeah.
would be, I'd have to see it on mine and then I'd have to call in, so
And
it's
then
not
somebody's
triggering the
got
false
external
alarm.
cameras on their house that notifies them by their phone just as soon as they got motion. They can actually see that they're monitoring it themselves.
And then
Whereas
they make that
the-
call.
The company, the alarm companies ain't gonna have somebody, I guess, they ain't gonna have someone sit there and monitor these cameras all the time for people.
No, they're not gonna do that.
So, Mr. Bates, with your monitoring system, would it be possible that you say, or to your customer, hey, I have to have, two-zone verification before we call this into the sheriff's office? Could your business do that?
I believe we could. I'd have to
Okay.
speak, I'd have to go down that path with them to see, but I don't see why not.
And
My
that's,
personally, I don't see why not. I
yeah.
mean,
So that would be something else to look at. If that be the case, then you say, hey, we have front door and living room. You know, and now you have two sources of verification, and then we send somebody out. Otherwise, and that's, again, we have to talk to, you know, your company, ETC, whoever does the monitoring around to say, can you do this?
Exactly.
Because, I don't think the sheriff was saying that, hey, we're not gonna respond, period. I think he was just saying, I need more verification before we come out there.
And I understand
And
that.
if your company can do that, and ETC can do that, then that's two forms of verification, in my opinion.
I like that.
And maybe we can talk to the sheriff about that as well, but that would be two forms of verification.
And for those that have got cameras, that's great too.
Yeah.
But I'm worried about the ones that can't afford them.
Um,
There are a lot of I do have some customers that are barely able to afford an alarm system. And if they had to be forced to put cameras in versus turning it off, they turn it off, I'm afraid. And then that's gonna leave their homes unprotected.
Would you care to go see, like 100%, if your system could do that?
I will check with them tomorrow.
And just give us a call back, kind of let us know.
Sure.
On that.
And I wouldn't think it'd be a problem, ETC and the rest of them, of course, I'll check into that
Yeah,
too.
and that's what I'm saying, you're just happy to be here, I don't think there's anybody here from ETC, but I'd be more happy to call them, TDS, whoever else is doing the monitoring,
Mhm.
ADT or whoever,
I think ETC does their own.
and see if they could do that for
The
us.
rest of the smaller guys don't, we pay somebody to do it for us. And, but I don't see why we couldn't, especially if y'all had it in here, I don't see why they couldn't do that.
Okay.
We might have to change our monitoring contract with them, but that's not I wouldn't think it'd be a big problem either. I wouldn't have a problem changing mine.
All right. Anything else, John?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
I just find the rat.
Hard to find those rats.
Yeah, we guess we can put the big traps out.
Anyone else on the alarm ordinance? Gentleman in the back, I know you come in just a little bit late. Were you here for the, maybe to hear the alarm ordinance, or was it?
No, my name is Jim Marlett. I've got a
Gotcha.
variance.
Gotcha.
I apologize, I was
No,
told
no,
six,
you're
I'm sorry.
fine.
No, you're right for
Yeah,
that
you're
meeting.
right.
Okay.
We just closed the first public hearing a little earlier than somebody spoke, so I wasn't sure if you were,
No, thank you.
ma'am. Okay. Anyone else on the alarm ordinance? All right, I'll make a motion that we close the second public hearing for the alarm ordinance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We got about 5 minutes if anybody wants to stretch your leg, sing a little bit for us or anything like that, you're more than welcome to. We'll start our regular meeting. Commissioner Patterson, I know we pray, but we can never pray enough, so, you
We'll
ladies,
pray again.
I appreciate it.
All right, bow our heads. Lord Heavenly Father, again, we want to come to your presence, Lord. You should always be with us. Sometimes we get busy with life issues, and Lord, we just, it's a shame that we just don't call on you more. And we just want to ask you again to be with us as we go through this meeting. Be with every facet of it. Thank you for everyone that's here tonight, Lord. Bless them, watch over them, and help us as Fannin County citizens to do what you would have us to do. Thank you for the commissioners that are beside me, Lord. Go with us and guide us and give us a good decision-making process. We ask these things in Christ's holy name. Amen.
Amen. You want me to pledge and pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all again. Number two, under unfinished business, number two, it's approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2022 regular scheduled board meeting. Commissioner Patterson, any errors or omissions?
No, sir. I'm fine with minutes. Thank you.
Commissioner Surley?
No, sir, everything looks good.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of the February 8th, 2022 regular scheduled board meeting.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, under new business, number three, we have a variance request for Bradley Birchman to build a new home with a porch 22 feet from the edge and 30 feet from the center line of the Huda Overlook Trail. Is anyone here that opposes the variance request? Anyone here that supports it? Bradley Birchman? Okay. So, gentlemen, I went, took a look at this property. It appears that, this is literally the only place, to put this house on this particular,
Yeah,
and man, it's taking the wood, isn't it?
it is. Pretty
But-
steep.
it is. Commissioner Cersei, any,
No, sir.
good? Mr. Patterson?
The only thing I saw when I was out there, I think it was maybe Saturday or Friday or Saturday, we got a lot of water it was after the rain, and there's a lot of water down at the bottom. I know they haven't finished it or anything, but it needs to be taken care of. Did you see it as well, Chairman?
I did.
Okay.
We actually talked to them about that, and I noticed the silt fence also needs to, with everything that's run down, needs to
Right.
work, and they
Right.
have assured us they're gonna take care of that.
That's good.
ASAP, so. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Okay. I'll ask for a motion that we approve the variance request for Bradley Birchman. I'll ask for that motion.
I'll second.
I'll
Or
make-
make a motion.
I make a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Second, yeah.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, we have a variance request from James Marlott. Okay. To place a carport 15 feet from the edge of Mathis Farm Road. Is anyone here opposed to that? You understand Mr. Morlock's here for it, so, I'm sure he's for it,
I'm in
right?
support of it,
Yeah.
100%.
Mr. Morlock, and I'm
Yes.
pronouncing that correct, right?
Yes, you
Morlock?
are.
Okay. You own the, do you own the, lot next to it as well?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So there's 3 lots, so that Farm Road's an easement, actually,
Yeah.
and I named it after, Reed.
Yeah.
So basically on that easement, when you come through that first fence, we have the first lot, and then the second one, which is now 180 Baptist Farm Road, it's noted as lot 2 there. Basically, I just want a carport in front of the house, so I assume you went up there and you saw the structure, but the carport is separate from that.
Yes.
So,
And it's in lot 2,
lot 2, correct.
and you've got 3?
And then I own the next one after that.
So you got some room.
Yeah, and then the one after that is actually owned by a guy out of Florida, he got an easement on his to put an RV on it, you guys did
I
last
saw
year.
that.
Yeah, Jason, yeah, so.
Small.
Gentlemen, any concerns over this one?
I only have one. Mr. Marlett, when they were talking to you about this, the yellow sign they always give everybody.
Right.
That's for the public to be able to go by if they want to. Neighbors, I know there's some closer to the road down there, to look and see if they object, so they can be here or whatever.
Okay,
When I was out there, that thing was rolled up
Right.
like so.
it was, so.
With
it went
strip
away.
ties.
Yeah, okay.
That's not real visible. Now, I know, you can slip those slip ties and it'll come open, but some people may not even get out of the car to see that. It needs to be visible,
Okay.
and I know sometimes you don't have a board or something, but it needs to be clearly seen, and it was
Yeah, I
not.
apologize, I did not realize that, they just said post it where you're gonna put the,
Yeah, when you post it.
carport. And I made sure it didn't blow away, that was
Yeah,
the
you
intent.
didn't, but when you post it, you gotta
Okay, all right.
it's kind of concealed.
Sure.
That's all I have, Chairman.
All right. I'll ask for a motion that we approve the variance request for James Marlock to place a carport 15 feet from the edge of Mathis Farm Road. I'll ask for that motion.
Go ahead, I'll make a motion.
Okay. Ask for a second.
I'll say.
All in favor? Number 5 will be the board action on the adoption of the amended excise tax, rooms, lodging, and accommodation ordinance. Gentlemen, any further discussion on this before we take board action?
I have none.
I'm not Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we adopt the amended excise tax for the rooms, lodging, and accommodation ordinance. I'll make that motion. Ask for a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, do you want
Yes,
to
sir.
kind of just give your brief things to this? I know it's a little bit lengthy, but the important part of this excise tax, since we've got the regular meeting here.
Excellent. Ms. Jackson, would you care to do that? Because you can sum it up probably quicker than I could. I tried to read this, but.
Absolutely. The basic 2 changes that we're asking for would be to raise the registration fee from $25 per year to $100 when they register, with a renewal fee of $100. That is so they'll register, they'll pay $100, say like this year, and they won't pay again until 2023. So it would
$100 a year.
be, in essence, $100 a year for that lodging certificate. Let's
Yeah.
see.
Number 2, you said 2 things.
The facilitators, using the right terminology.
Right, well, we're adding that, that's just something that is going out through just as a housekeeping measure. That bill changed and, for the state of Georgia, so we need to add to our ordinance terminology.
Right.
And, the only other thing would be the collector credit, would be doing away with the collector credit. That's just a potential for abuse. People pay late all the time, but they still take that credit.
Right.
And our auditors look at how Fannin County handles that
And that kind of muddies the water, doesn't it?
Well, it just requires extra work on our part,
Right.
and the ordinance clearly says you must have your payment here by the 20th to keep that money.
And they're not.
And they're not.
I got you.
And that's basically it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
for
ma'am.
doing that.
Okay, number 6, board action on the adoption of the amended alarm ordinance. Gentlemen, I know, we don't quite have this finished, just to be honest with you. We're still trying to tweak it up a little bit and try to make sure that, you know, this is it's a very important thing within our county. We want to make sure that we have it right before we do move forward. So, it would be my recommendation that we table this, till our next board meeting
I agree.
in March. So I will ask for a motion, unless y'all have discussion over it. I will make a motion that we table the adoption of the amended alarm ordinance till our first regular meeting in March. All in favor? Number 7 is the release of land lease, property being, Mr., and I pronounce this wrong, Running?
That's right.
Okay. Off Queens Road where fire station number 5 is located. Ms. Dawes, if you would.
Back in, when the Runyon property was owned by, Charles and Janice Ballrack, they did a long-term lease with the county for what we all collectively know as fire station number 5. Subsequently, the Ballracks sold their property and Mr. Runyon bought it. Mr. Runyon is getting ready to sell his property, and it was determined by whoever's doing the closing, I don't know who that is, but what they determined was that when the Ballracks leased the property to the county, they leased everything, their whole entire house, their whole entire property. And we know that Dr. Ballrath really loved the fire department, but we don't think he really meant to lease all of his property on Pine Cup Creek to the county. So what this does is release the county's interest, if any it legitimately had, in everything except where the fire station is. And we are keeping the fire station, and that's not going away. But that's the long and the short of that one.
So since we have a long-term lease with this property, is there any other things we could do with it?
I don't think we
Just
can
kidding,
ever
honestly,
prove
just
that we
kidding.
paid for it.
It'd be good, though.
I can't imagine that phone
It's good.
call with the title company called him and
Oh,
said,
man.
by the way, the county has a long-term lease on your bedroom. Talk about expectation of privacy out the window.
There's your second motion to take, right?
Yeah, there's your second motion.
Yeah.
Sure. So this actually dates back to 2005, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Patterson, any discussion on this?
No, I think it's pretty clear cut. Thank you.
Mr. Searcy?
I'm done good.
We have to help me out with this motion, but I'll make a motion that we accept the release of interest of the land lease of the property on Queens Road, except the tract that Station 5 is located on. I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm proud to say that sound
It is, you sounded great.
Okay.
Work your way through it.
I'm learning, right?
We need to sign.
Yes, please.
That-
I'll make one of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got it. Go
Well,
ahead.
either way. Gentlemen, that brings us down to public commentary. If anybody would like to speak, please raise your hand, come up and state your name, tell us where you're from. Yes, sir.
Just heard Miss Jackson, and this may bring a little light to it. But I'm Chuck Rhodes. I live at 473 Ridgebrook Trail in Morganton. And I understand last week y'all had a meeting and some issues were brought up about rental property, some commitments on the current workload at EMS, fire, police. My little community is only 25 completed homes. And just in the past year, 7 full or part-time residents sold. Now they're part-time rentals. And there's every lot owner in there is retired. And those 7 short-term rentals are, I don't know how to put it, but more than a penny in most cases with the noise. I understand the county doesn't have a noise ordinance. But I think what's disappointing to me is when they receive a call because there's more people in that rented home than what the landlord or the owner anticipated. Sheriff's Department's out there to evict them. But they won't come to me at 2 o'clock in the morning when the people next door has got the music blasting at 10. And I kind of feel like Blue Jeans Pizza over here. You got 7 chicken places, so the rooster's getting the service, and the cow's not getting, that brings the cheese and the meat, ain't getting no attention. But there's 1,675 improved residents or properties within the county. 6,445 are homesteaded, at least 10,330. Your records only show 1,459 identified rental properties. So even at $100 a piece for the renewal of the, whatever she called it,
Right.
the permit,
Right.
that's quite a bit of money. And I think Sheriff Kirby brought up last time there's 800, on an average, 800 false alarms. And typically renters, or cabin cleaners, or pets left in. Is that information shared with the county to, if the sheriff identifies that as a rental, did it not be put on the rental list? It's a lot of money. Because at least at 8,871 homes, I don't think all those are second homes, you know. A lot of them's rentals. And I understand about Airbnb. They don't register the cabins. It's up to the owners to do that. And how that ever got passed, I guess we were looking for business in Georgia. But personally, I feel the quality of life, you know, the peace and the quiet, and that's why we moved here. But it's getting way away from that now. Because there's only 5 full-time residents, and we have 7 short-term rentals. And I think I'm the youngest one in the neighborhood. I don't have a problem confronting the loud music goers, but we have several that are in their 80s. I don't want them to go and have to confront somebody because they can't sit on their porch because of the music. A little courtesy of coming out, maybe, letting them know it's a neighborhood, please turn it down, would be nice if we could get that. Then my only other thing is, and maybe you lead me in the right direction, we need a deceleration lane there at Maple Grove in 515. Who do I?
That would be the Georgia Department of Transportation, GDOT. So it would be up to the state for that.
As I see all kinds going in there. I mean, even the neighborhoods that aren't even built yet. So. That's all I have, gentlemen, ladies.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. If, how does county handle calls like this gentleman was talking about? In other words, you get a call out at, midnight, that you got some folks out there just raising Cain, people trying to go to sleep.
1:40 in the morning is when I called last time.
How does a deputy, how would that be handled? And I know we don't have a noise ordinance. However, how is that handled?
911 tells you they won't respond because we don't have a noise ordinance.
There's still a thing called disturbing the peace. So I don't care what, there is a law about disturbing the peace. If the peace has been interrupted in some way, something needs to be looked into. So how does the county, as the chairman asked, how do they answer the calls?
In the past, we have went out and asked folks to turn down their music. Usually there is no noise ordinance in the county, we can't make them turn it down.
Well, I've made a note. We're gonna figure this one out.
As far as being too many people in a residence, we don't go out and evict people. We tell the cabin rental folks that that's something that they need to deal with the tenants that's there.
Sir, I can't solve your problem tonight, but we have begun a process of identifying areas of issue, need, rewriting ordinances. And it's a steady march. We're on 8 for alarms. But I truly get it. Maybe you invest in some roosters and get them to go off under their window at 5:30 in the morning. That's ugly, I shouldn't have said it. But,
Well, my thing is, if they disturb me while I'm watching the race on Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m., I'm disturbing them at 3 a.m. And I don't want them to show up to tell me I'm disturbing the peace.
well, I have, you brought up 2 valid points. This is my commission notebook, and I made a note.
But not to dispute what he's saying, but Christmas, 2 years ago, there were 15 people in the cabin next door and 5 sheriffs showed up to escort them out.
There's probably something else going on there too.
There
I would
may have
assume.
been.
So-
There again, I only hear and see, I'm not part of it,
Yeah.
but that's a possibility.
All right. Thank
They
you,
could
sir.
have been tearing it up, which is okay.
But we are working on the ordinances.
I appreciate it. And you won't get a 911 false call from me in case of a fire. I'll call when the fire hits the woods on those rental cabins.
Okay, on that note.
I didn't hear nothing.
It took me a while to get to the phone.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
You got one back.
Anyone?
Just with what he was saying, how is the county gonna prepare? I will have to
Come on up, get
Okay.
there, please.
I mean, going with what he said, how's the county, the sheriff's department gonna handle these calls? My mother she lived on Salem Road, and out of 8 houses, there's only 2 full-time people left. And at the time, my mom was in hospice. And the people that were renting the cabin before brought their AR-15s up, and they were 20 years old. So they were shooting them straight up in the air. So the neighborhood kind of security guard, he went down to talk to them. They stopped. But right before they left Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, they were out there doing it again. My mother had dementia at the time. It scared her so bad, and then the domino effect of that. So my question is, we make these ordinances, but how is the sheriff's department gonna handle it? Because I know we called last week to the sheriff's department, and a deputy had to call us back. It wasn't like where I grew up, you call 911, everything gets dispatched. But we had to wait on a deputy.
We
And-
have 3 deputies per shift,
But that's not, I don't think that's enough.
I don't
But
either.
I don't
I agree
have-
with you 100%. And that's what we're trying to do, is to figure out a way to take care of that solution, to put more on there.
I just,
It's not like that we're, honestly, I can promise you this. If you had to wait on a call from a deputy, and I say this, if you had to wait on a call, that's because they were all three on a call and there was nobody else available.
Or they may be spread it
Yeah,
out.
they're spread out and just couldn't get you in the time, and there's like, hey, what's going on? I'm in the route, but let me get you on the phone to talk to you to begin with. But as far as, I feel they're responding as quick as they
oh
possibly
yeah,
can.
I'm not
so-
complaining at all about
But I
that.
agree with you, that's something that we're definitely trying to work on, public safety, public works, we're trying to get those two, I mean, without either one of them, we don't have anything in this county.
You know, I just think about the wreck on Asta a couple, was it last weekend, or, that was a bad wreck. Surely all three deputies were there, so what happens when another emergency comes in? Say there's a horrible accident on 515 at the
Then
same
one
When
of them
somebody
leaves.
has to break away and go
One of them
to it.
leaves that scene, goes to the next.
But now, getting back to this gentleman, your stuff, there is several ways and things that law enforcement can do. And Kevin's sitting back here and he'll tell you, if a house is disorderly, for instance, those 15, if the law comes and they can't come to a solution of peace, there's other avenues that we can go down. Am I not correct? So you have different laws. There's a law to cover things. You try to be as civil as you can. And I understand these deputies. I'm city, he's county. So in the city, it's totally different. We have ordinances. The county is not like the city by no means. I mean,
I realize that.
ours is different. So, but when their backs are against the wall, if they have to shovel you off, they will. I mean,
And I can appreciate that, and I understand the workload is probably way more than the number of deputies that you have at any given time. And there are noise ordinance in various other counties that maybe little research. Noise ordinance doesn't require this is warning one. There's no warnings on the noise ordinance, but tell me if I'm misunderstanding you or if I'm reading too much into it. Instead of, when I call, instead of saying loud noise, I say unruly
disturbing.
or disturbing, okay.
You're recorded when you call
And
911.
I understand that, and in the paper just last week, it said that 911 got 503 calls. Is that even when you call the regular number?
No, that's
It goes straight to
911.
911.
That's probably their 911. Let me tell you a little. Kevin, how long you been a county deputy?
I don't know, 12 years.
12 years. I've been here 41. Your call ratio compared to 12 years ago is up how many?
Be about afraid to say, but I mean, it's probably double or
If you were doing 100 12 years ago, you would probably say between 100 and 1,000, you're probably doing 600, 700.
It's went a lot.
That goes, and get this, here's your scenario. Have we added any more people to it? It's still the same amount of people answering the same amount of calls. But I mean, a different amount of calls.
But my understanding is too, the county sets the millage rate on the taxes.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't homesteaded, why aren't they given a different?
Legally, you can.
You
You
can't?
can't
You
give a
can't do
homestead
that.
exemption, and we do give a homestead exemption. But you can't charge one property owner more than the other. You can exempt somebody that is their primary residence. We
Okay.
do have a homestead exemption, but we cannot charge based on whether or not you're a full-time resident or we're not.
But if that's the case, then in Miss Jackson's $100 permit, I mean, some of these people are taking $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year home. I think $100 may be a little cheap.
We thought that too.
Thank you.
We thought that too. And hey, let me let you know, man, on the road I live on, it's the same way. I was the second house on my road. Now I think there's like 14, and which, when I have the same problem with renters like that too, coming in for the weekend, and I've run into situations like that too, so.
But I don't have a police uniform to wear down.
I don't wear the police uniform, but I do come out with my little friend, so.
And that's what I'm afraid of, is some of these renters, you know, they, after 3/4 of the day drinking, they get ignorant.
Yeah,
The little friend might come out,
yeah.
you know, and that's what I'm trying to
Well,
learn.
we're working on ordinances.
I appreciate it.
We're trying to do that. We want to protect you in your home, and we want you to feel safe.
Or if nothing else, identify the problem residents, once they get too
And Ms.
close.
Doss said that.
Okay.
And we're trying to help the deputies so we can give them more freedom to make sure you're safe and happy.
But to send 10 people on a false 911 call, you know,
We're working on it.
two notice, 2 false alarms, that's too many.
Yeah, it
Charge them
is.
right off the bat. Hell with it.
Come on up. I agree with that too.
Can I give y'all a couple of things?
Yeah.
Please?
How are you?
Good as ever, I guess.
We'll do.
Thank you, Helen. Appreciate it.
It's a dinner menu.
It is. Carry out. So I'll give you a little bit of background on what I just handed you. Being a real estate agent, I have people that call me and say I'm interested in a particular property. And first thing I tell them, I said, I'm gonna do a little bit of research on this, you know, give you the pros and cons of a particular property. So I was doing research on the survey and some different things. Anyway, long story short, the survey that was attached to the real estate listing was a survey of the particular street where the lots were located. I think there were 5 lots located on that particular street. And every survey for a subdivision is usually 4 or 5 pages long, because you have the cover sheet, which is the one I just handed you guys. And then you have it broken down into the lots per street. So I started looking at the cover sheet. I always like to look at these, because this is where, like, the engineering information for the subdivision, different kind of things like that is. You've got a sign off from the health department, from land development. You've got the sign off from the county attorney. A lot of good information on the cover sheet. So the thing that I saw on this one that just stopped me in my tracks, and I apologize, that portion should have been highlighted, but I didn't print it in color. So if your eyes are as bad as mine, I wrote it down. It says, Fannin County shall not be responsible for the failure to deliver public safety to any property above this excessive slope, especially but not exclusive of fire protection and emergency medical services. So I had never seen that on a plat. And it, like I said, I'm thinking, okay, so most people that buy a piece of property in this subdivision, they're gonna see that particular plat for their particular lot. And I guess I have a couple of questions. Is there, because I like to be careful on things like this when I'm recommending properties to people, is there a list somewhere of how many times this has been stamped on a piece of property or a subdivision in Fannin County?
Look, I don't know that there's a list. Marie Woody could tell you. If it's over an excessive slope, they have to come in and it goes through and it's approved. So maybe in the minutes. I don't think it's been done, I don't remember it being under your administration, there being one. There's 3 or 4 that I can think of, and then, of course, the plat itself is recorded, it's a public record.
This plat is recorded, but, in my experience anyway, once a house, okay, there's 47 lots in this community. When people build a house on those, a lot of times they have a second survey with the house cited on the survey. So I pulled a few of those up, and that language didn't carry forward.
But it's, as you and I know, it's part of the chain of title. And I'm gonna tell you, it's totally above mine and your pay grade, it's above this board's pay grade. Georgia's Georgia's probably this side of the Mississippi, what is called the queen of the buyer beware state. And Georgia law says if it's recorded in the office of the clerk of the Superior Court for the county in which your property is existing, you are deemed to have notice.
I understand that, and I do. I get into that a lot of times in my job, but I'm just wondering if maybe a second, because in my experience anyway, when people buy a piece of property, they do a title search. And this information would be, well, not the information. When they get the title search, it says, you know, your property is under variance number and deed book, blah, 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 blah. They get that at the closing table when they're fixing to sign for this property. So my question would be, as a matter of public safety, would it not be advisable to maybe when somebody comes in for a building permit to say, hey, by the way, we can't guarantee that we can get a fire truck here.
And we can't chill a sale.
We can't.
We cannot chill.
Kill a sale.
Not kill, chill a sale.
I don't understand. Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I don't understand what that means.
But we can't.
I
as a
can.
but you
I do
can't.
it all the time.
But as a public entity, we can't say anything that might make somebody else not buy.
Even if it's a matter of safety.
We're doing what we can by putting it on the plat.
Why wouldn't the title search research?
title search.
Yes, sir.
The title search, I mean, I do titles for a living, the title search would show it, but like, the Georgia Board of Realtors could require all plats in a chain of title to be part of a real estate contract as an exhibit that somebody has to sign off on. But as a county entity, so I can't remember the name of the guy, Mr. Favre, that did this initial development. The guy before him was a weaver. So I come in and I'm down here with Marie Woody and I say, hey, before you get a building permit to build up here on this piece of property, I need to make you aware of this. And then I say, oh, I don't want to buy that. I'm going to go over here and buy Sam's property. Mr. Favre could come back to us and say, you had no business interfering in my sale. What's on record is on record, but you're not the clerk's office. And I lost this X number of dollars sale because you butted your nose in where it don't belong. And I'm not saying that you're not correct, but this county doesn't have the authority to change it. We require people to put this notice, we require the notice to be recorded. But then we can't impose a duty on some other office to go out, it's just like the tax assessors can't tell you that your property line may overlap with somebody else's property line.
Yeah, well, you guys have different rules than we do. In my business, we have the rule of disclosure. We have to disclose.
You're right.
Defects or,
Land paint,
we
the fact that somebody was
have to
mass murdered.
disclose
Yeah,
that.
absolutely.
But my job of disclosure and doing research for my clients is hindered by this sort of thing.
So, in my opinion, the person who's selling this development, would they not be held accountable to say, hey, here's the deal. You may or may not.
You know, that would go to the closing attorney that's handling the sale. If I did, let's say I was doing a contract on this and my customer was buying lot 30. And let's say lot 30 is on page 3 of this 5-page plat. 99 times out of 100, the agent is gonna make the contract with page 3. They're never gonna see this page. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be given to them, right? They just won't look at it yourself.
No, sir.
They won't.
It just won't even be there. Now, if they wanted to investigate that on their own, and they were familiar with real estate and savvy about plats and deeds, they'll look down here. Well, as you can see, as the overall cover page, that takes up a very tiny little portion.
Right.
It's not in bold, it's not
It's not.
warning, it's not anything.
Not
And if
highlighted.
you even look at some of the tinier language, it says that this is page 1 of 5 or page 1 of 6. And so I'm just thinking, I mean, I understand, you know, what the law is and the rules are and it's buyer beware and this, that, and the other. But I'm just looking at an average consumer. But the scariest part about this to me is this. If I bought that house on lot 30, or bought that property on lot 36, and the county gave me a building permit, they came out there and they gave me my electrical inspection, my excavation inspection, this, that, and the other, and then God forbid my house caught on fire. I actually lost my house in a fire when my son was 5. And it can really pull the rug out from under you. But let's just say it did. And I also know insurance companies, and I know they're not going to pay if they can figure out a way to not pay. What would a disclosure like that, if an insurance company found it on a plat, do to a payout?
Let me ask you something. Now, you're in real estate.
Yes, sir.
So if I come to you and I say, hey, I want to buy lot 30.
That's why I was looking.
But let me ask you something. So I come in and I tell you, man, my wife's looking to relocate or just wanting to move. I'm selling my house and I want lot 30. I want you to help me. And so we get down there and we just so happen to start looking. I wouldn't be. She'd be more cautious than I am. But she did happen to see that and read that. And I'm coming up here thinking, so are you telling me that where I'm buying, is this on like a slope, or is this going to be able to, for an ambulance or a fire truck to get to me? But here I see that this is on this thing. Is it because of the mountain terrain that we live in, of the land, the way the land lays, that people selling all of our mountains and cutting all of our trees, and you're building cabins on the side of the mountain? Is that why they put that on there? Because I'm wanting to buy lot 30. Are you telling me that I'm not going to be able to put, if my house catches on fire, I'm not going to be able to put my house out, save it?
What would I do?
What would you, as a realtor?
Well, I would tell you 2 things. I would tell you the first thing is to contact the county if they wanted clarification on what they meant by that statement. But the second and most important thing that I would do, if there's a house already existing there, is tell you to contact your insurance company.
There is a house on that? Would be, you saying there would be a house?
If there was a house, I would hand this to my insurance company and say, what happens to me if I buy, can I get coverage? And could I file a claim for fire if the county has made the statement that we can't guarantee that we can get emergency services to you?
Well, let me ask you something. Did they put that on there? Can you tell me what kind of property, how that property lays right there for this to be on this paper?
Me,
yeah.
personally, this particular, well, it's, I mean,
Is it
the
steep?
roadway getting into that steep.
Yeah, it's a very,
And I'm assuming it's not-
water driving up the.
Yeah.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. That then they put this on this deed here because I don't know who put it on there. I didn't put it on
You
there.
didn't know, this is 2007, you didn't put it on there.
But that's probably why they put it there, because they couldn't assure you like they can assure me you can come to nowhere and
Correct.
put this fire out at my house.
And there's, yeah, getting a tanker truck with
But
water
here's
right
another
there.
thing, it's not like they're not gonna try.
No, they're gonna try.
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna do
everybody
everything that
knows
they
that they can
possibly can to get
try.
up there, but you get up halfway up Big Sky
Right.
up there, and what is that, off Highway 2 up there?
Yeah.
That straight
Big
up.
sky.
It's happening.
It's
Yeah.
the,
Right.
well,
You get halfway up there,
settlements.
and it
pretty
starts
high,
coming
too, yeah.
back down on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we, you
Have
do
you ever
everything you
Ravens
can to get
Ridge?
there. Yeah, probably, Big Sky, whatever it is, it's pretty high too.
But you think that the land development would possibly know of the other areas that
There
have
may be
that?
a list, I'm not gonna tell you for sure there is, but there may be.
But I will get with Marie Woody tomorrow
Yeah.
and see what we can find out about that.
Thank
And
you.
like I say, I don't know of any that has passed under the current administration.
Do you have an ordinance on slope, road slope?
The land development ordinance does have provisions as to sloping. It's also one of the ordinances that we're gonna be revisiting, but right now there is one. That's why they had to come get a variance.
Thank you.
This is behind the, yeah, it's up there behind the labor department.
Anyone else?
Question.
Yes, ma'am, come on up.
Well, I don't really, okay, so let's go back to that $100.
Let's go.
That permit thing. Okay. When y'all are doing that ordinance and y'all are looking at it, do y'all have the ability to raise the amount of the permit fee? Do y'all?
That's what we've just done.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, because, you know, when I heard the other night that Debbie Jackson said the average is like $275 a night, that's what I guess the norm was, the median was. Because I just feel like that, and y'all, I'm for growth, I'm for controlled growth.
Me too.
But I feel like that our county is subsidizing all of these rentals. And if you can recoup part of that money by a higher fee, and y'all get to use it for something, whether it's to buy somebody another spot for a policeman, a deputy, or a firefighter, I think you should do it. And that's just my thought.
Yeah,
I agree.
I'm stuck on that $100, y'all.
Just as a quick one, she said it was $275 was an average. The average rental is 65% of the time. It's $68,750 that renter's taking home. So $100 or $500 or even $1,000 is gonna take very little money out of their pocket. And they write it off anyhow. So they'll get $70 back, so it didn't really cost them $1,000.
We're looking at stuff like that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment about the Ginger's thing, that maybe the title researcher has some liability. No?
Well, I mean, the title research, I'm sorry, is it okay? The title abstractor is gonna turn up any, they go back 50 years, 30 years, and, they're gonna, the prospective buyer at the closing table is given a report that says these are the deed book and page numbers. They don't actually get copies of those deed book and page numbers. It just says, you know, for further investigation type thing, and, they're doing their job. It's just, I'm not sure that, I'm just not sure they're getting properly warned.
I'd say if an insurance company sold them the insurance company would have to pay. They inspect the property too.
That hasn't been my
Be
experience
surprised.
with
They-
insurance
they-
companies.
They don't, most of them don't go visit the site,
Oh.
they just
Right
write
now, it has a
policy.
little sticker on the window.
Yeah.
Then after the fire, then they go look, oh, look what I found on the plat, we're not gonna cover you now, we found this, you know.
That would be my worry. I'm not sure if it is or not.
Yeah, when he
Anyone else
gets
for
to the
public
woods,
commentary?
I'll call 911.
Anyone else for public commentary?
I just one question on these ordinances that you're working to change. Are you doing anything with animal control
Yes, sir.
ordinances in this?
Yes,
Where are you getting all your information from?
it's a work in progress.
Because
We-
initially,
we
back
got-
during Howie Bruce's administration,
Don't go there.
I was on the K-9 Fannin committee, and
Yeah.
we reworked that ordinance.
It is a work in progress. We are looking at other counties that are similar to us. I can't go to DeKalb or Fulton or anything like that, try to use theirs, but we're trying to get counties that are similar to us and seeing what's gonna be best for Fannin County moving forward. So that is a work in progress. And
So you getting feedback from anybody, like I say, in animal rescue?
we get feedback every day.
It will have public hear, we're required to have public
Yeah.
hearings, so that will be.
That'll be
just
part
like
of that
what we
as
do with
well.
the alarm.
Mm-hmm.
That happened in the vacuum, I promise you.
Anyone else? Okay, we will close public commentary. Gentlemen, y'all need executive session tonight.
I do not, Jim.
Thinking. No, no.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second that motion?
All in favor?
No.